Is New Orleans keeping Dennis Allen in 2024? The question of the day with Bob Hebert and Nick Underhill here on OTB on ESPN 104.5. Ladies and gentlemen, touchy subject, because for weeks, for months, for over almost 2 years, we've been saying that Dennis Allen needs to go. We've been saying that Dennis Allen is the worst, most losingest head coach for the longest period of time in NFL history. Those are all facts. I stand by them. But with this recent development, with the Saints beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, kind of, sort of saving the season, kind of, sort of keeping the miracle alive, there is some rumblings that Dennis Allen could be back next year. Relax, okay? I'm going to walk everyone through this. We're gonna walk hand in hand with across this very testy subject. So let's go ahead and watch the video, react like only we can do.
So here we arrive, and the roller coaster continues.
Yeah.
For this New Orleans Saints team,
Indeed.
right? I mean, again, it's just so hard to parse how you should feel about this team, how you should feel about wins. I think I've arrived at a place where I would like to see change no matter what, but at the same time, I don't want them to lose to the Falcons. I want them to go beat Atlanta in this final week, right? And I don't really care about overall record. Like,
I agree. And the Falcons game and the Bucs game really shouldn't have no bearing on Dennis Allen or Pete Carmichael or whoever else. You know, like, it blows my mind that we're in a situation, and this is where the franchise is, where we have a ton of evidence for Pete Carmichael, for Dennis Allen, or whatever else. But the fact that we could be, I mean, we're an 8-win team. You know, it's not like he's finished strong like the Rams have finished strong. You know, the Rams finished strong, and they look like they're playing some incredible football. You know, they're scoring 30-plus points. They go to overtime against Baltimore on the road. They blow us out on Thursday Night Football. Like, they have major players, you know, Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyron Willis. They have all this stuff happening. They are trending in the right direction. You can see that the Saints, like, the idea that the Buccaneers' performance and then a good performance against a bad Atlanta team and 9 wins in a horrible division, the idea that that can somehow make Mickey Loomis forget about the entire rest of the season, last year, the fact that we just got rolled against the Rams, like, we could miss the playoffs. We're certainly the favorite to miss the playoffs. We could not win the division. We're certainly the favorite to not win the division again for the second year. Like, I just don't understand how one game or potentially 2 games can save Dennis Allen, can save Pete Carmichael. Like, how is Mickey Loomis basing his decision? And I'm not saying he is. I mean, we don't know if he is. This all could just be conjecture, word of the day. But if Mickey Loomis is really thinking, like, let's see how he does in this game before I decide anything, that seems crazy to me. I'm not going to sit here and say that I have any inside sources. Certainly, I don't have sources that are better than these guys. But to me, it just seems crazy that Loomis could look at what has happened with this team, could hear. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, it was not that long ago the fans were booing this team at home. It was not that long ago we gave up 21 points in about 17 seconds to the Detroit Lions. You know, like, wasn't that long ago. So I don't know if Loomis just has some kind of short-term memory where he can just completely forget that stuff, but you can't forget the turmoil that this team was in for the majority of the season. And spoiler, we are still in turmoil. We haven't fixed anything. Like, we didn't turn things around and all of a sudden we're an 11-win team. We're hosting a playoff game. We're doing this and we're doing that. We're firing on all cylinders. That's not the case. So I understand that people are saying, and I'm sure we'll hear it in this video, that Allen's going to come back, but I just don't see how you could possibly be okay with bringing Allen and Carmichael back. It would absolutely blow my mind. It really would. It would shake me to my core.
If you've already missed...
Oh, I just noticed. If you've been a long-time watcher of this channel, wow, hold on a second. If you've been a long-time watcher of this channel, I have every OTB video. I have talked about the wild background they use, the synthwave dystopian background of flying through some kind of synthwave futuristic night city. And now they changed their background to this yellow and black kind of number right here. So Wow. Okay. So we have a new background for 2024 for OTB. Interesting.
It's the opportunity to maybe get the draft pick you were looking for, then yes, finishing with a winning record, beating Atlanta, maybe making the playoffs. We'll see. Whatever that would work out. That's all well and good. But like, I don't know. It felt kind of good to watch the Saints kick Baker Mayfield in the Bucs' ass on Sunday.
Yeah, I'll say this as far as like change goes. This game, it doesn't matter. Like they give.
There you go. Boom. I just went on my monologue, my diatribe, second word of the day. And Nick agrees. This game shouldn't matter. You know, these performances shouldn't matter. It should not be a game-to-game review when you're in year 2 of Allen and Carmichael.
Lose, it doesn't matter. I mean, they would have to lose in like insane fashion for it to be part of the evaluation of Dennis Allen. He's going to be the coach.
Already made?
I don't know that it's already made, but I mean, I feel strongly that I don't know how to say this, but like just based on what I know, I feel strongly that he's not going to lose his job.
So what if they had lost? And I know I'm getting into hypotheticals here. What if they had lost these last 2? Like, was it on the table before Sunday's win?
Yeah, I mean, I'll get into hypothetical. Mickey Loomis doesn't like to. You know, he said that in his interview, and it pisses everyone off.
Bro, that question that when my dad asked about quarterback.
Well, that was kind of an interesting 2 sentences there, because on one hand, it's like, well, you know, the win, the loss doesn't matter. But then on the other hand, it's like he's basically saying that if we would have lost these 2 games in embarrassing fashion, it would have mattered. So, I mean, both of the statements cannot be correct. You know, it's either Allen is either good, Allen is either under review, or we're still determining. In my mind, he's still under review. There's no possible way, and I'll go into hypotheticals now. There's no possible way the Saints could have a shot at Jim Harbaugh or Ben Johnson or whoever. And there's no way that Mickey Loomis can look at this and say, you know what? I don't think we really need Jim Harbaugh. I think we're kind of good with Dennis Allen. Maybe if we keep Dennis Allen for the next 15 years, maybe he can get anywhere near 500 as an NFL head coach.
It's such an easy answer. Just say, yeah, we explore all options. But to get so defensive and weird, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I agree. But look, I think they would have had to lose in 50-3, everybody quitting type of fashion for change to be made heading into these last 2. Heading into this game, I got, a stream on my page where, I'm looking at the camera and telling everybody that DA is going to be the coach next year. So get ready for it. It's just, I think they feel okay about where they're at now. I do think that there are going to be changes moving forward. I would be shocked if you don't see wholesale changes on the offensive staff, new OC, new coaches. And
so that's kind of my one caveat, third word of the day, is that if Allen sticks around, let's go way back, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go all the way back to when Sean Payton leaves. When we were kind of going back and forth of who's going to be the coach. If it was going to be Dennis Allen, the idea there is that Dennis Allen is a defensive genius. Now, I would argue that point. Certainly, some people might also argue that point. But the idea was that he's a defensive genius. He is one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. So the thought was, let's keep him, keep that defense, keep the core, keep the defensive identity, and then maybe we'll go get an offensive coordinator who can run the offense, and an offensive coordinator who can patch up the missing, the hole that is Sean Payton and Drew Brees, right? So that made sense. Sure, do that. That sounds fine. I've said 2 weeks ago, hire Brian Flores, defensive coach, as the head coach, and then go get an offensive mastermind to run the offense. I don't care who is the head coach and who's the OC. So if it's taken Loomis 2 years to say that's what I should have done, let's get rid of Pete Carmichael and the entire offensive staff, and let's go get an offensive coordinator, a tried and true offensive coordinator to run the offense and to try and fix the hole that is Sean Payton. If that is the situation, I can stomach that, because that gets us closer to, listen, defensively, yeah, I'm cool with Dennis Allen as the DC. as long as we have an identity on offense, as long as we have some kind of competency on the offensive side of the ball. We have not had that with Pete Carmichael. Okay, so and we're getting into this, let's just say we had Dennis Allen as the head coach, and Eric Bieniemy would have left Kansas City and came to New Orleans instead of going to Washington. I would have said, okay, cool, okay, fine. It gives us the best of both worlds. Gives Allen the defense, and then it gives an offensive guy the offense. Now, I still don't think Dennis Allen's a good game manager. I don't think he understands the analytics. I don't think he understands the game script. I do not like Dennis Allen as the head coach. But if I had to fire one, now this is the main point here. If I had to fire one, if you told me that next year the offense is either going to be run by Pete Carmichael and we'll find a new head coach / DC, or I could choose to keep Dennis Allen but go find a new offensive vision, I'm choosing that. I'm choosing to keep Allen and finding a new offensive vision. I really do believe that is the problem with this team. I don't like Dennis Allen. Again, ladies and gentlemen, hear me out. I don't like Dennis Allen. I don't want him to be the head coach. But if I had to choose between the two evils, I would rather see Carmichael and the offensive staff go and us try and restart a vision with a new OC.
I think that when they do that, the person's probably not going to have any connections whatsoever to the Sean Payton tree. I think it's going to be, somebody new from the outside. Now, I'll say this, though, I thought for sure they were going to change the OC last year, and they tried, and they just couldn't get the guys they wanted, so they ran it back with what they had. So I do think, though, that they're going to make changes on that side of the ball.
Good, okay.
And, I think the direction of the organization is decided kind of right now. Now, if you somehow sneak into the playoffs and you win the Super Bowl, are people getting fired? Probably not, but I don't think they're getting into the playoffs. I don't think they're going to win a playoff game. But, I just think where they're at right now, I think that the course is kind of set. It's going to be new offensive staff. I think they know they need new players, new guys on the edge, tackles on offense. So I think just they kind of know the direction of the team, but I think it's going to be with Dennis Allen at the helm. And we'll see how it goes. I do see a reality where if you get a great offensive coordinator, maybe you are a decent team, someone that's just kind of, I guess that kind of does for DA what DA did for Sean after years of
it. I do think it's harder though to do it this way. This part makes sense. I understand what everyone's saying. I understand this line. Okay, I understand this line of thinking. But I do think it's harder to find a really, 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 really good offensive coordinator because a lot of the really good offensive coordinators want to be head coaches. So you've got to find somebody. We keep mentioning Ben Johnson, Joe Brady, Eric Bieniemy. We keep mentioning those guys. They're not going to be the offensive coordinator. So now who is going to be the offensive coordinator? Who are we looking at? It's going to have to be a quarterback coach somewhere or an offensive assistant somewhere, someone that we probably just we aren't thinking of, we don't know. Or you're getting someone who's been fired, which isn't great either. You're getting Ken Dorsey or Cliff Kingsbury. You're getting someone like that who's been fired, a retread, and you're kind of giving them the demotion to offensive coordinator. I mean, for Ken Dorsey, it wouldn't be a demotion, obviously. He just got fired as OC. But Cliff Kingsbury, you're taking a retreaded old head coach and you're letting him try and be OC. So it's trickier. Loomis has obviously been a guy who doesn't want wholesale changes. He wants to be, he said in the past, he wants to be consistent. He wants to keep things together, all that stuff. So maybe the idea of new OC, new head coach, new DC, new entire staff, defensively and offensively, all at one time might just be too much for Loomis. Maybe that's just too much for him. So he's thinking, let's take care of the offense, give Allen a chance at defense, because we are to believe that he's a good defensive coach. And then if it doesn't work, we have the offense fixed. Then we'll fix the defense later. It's risky. It is absolutely risky, no doubt about it. But man, I mean, it'll be tough, I think, for Loomis to find that offensive coordinator, because we need an offensive coordinator who's going to own that vision. because Dennis Allen doesn't have a vision for the offense, right? So it can't be, we can't go get just a play caller. We've got to get somebody who's like 1 or 2 years away from being a head coach. Theoretically, it probably would be the heir apparent to Dennis Allen, whoever you're going to get. And the problem is, we saw it this year. If you whiff on that hire, if you whiff on the new offensive coordinator, we're right back to what we've seen for the last 2 years
of just disarray on defense and being mediocre. Like, if you can get someone that can change it, but like, I'm cynical about it though. Privately thinking about it,
the
it's
last
just like
2 years.
I don't know if it's gonna work. There isn't really any reason to believe in that it's gonna be drastically different.
Yeah.
But they're gonna find out. And look, I kind of feel like this is Mickey Loomis making his bet, because you've reached this crossroads. And I've constantly said, like, he should be judged on what happens next and where it goes and what they're able to do.
I agree.
He's making the decision not to replace this guy. So
yeah,
I think now his legacy's decided upon, hey, this is the guy I stuck with. And if it works, Mickey probably eventually, could be in that Hall of Fame discussion, given his credentials, is how many wins he has. He's top 10 all time. If it doesn't, I think it kind of soils everything that kind of already happened before.
I agree.
So it's
if Loomis messes this up and Allen and whoever the new OC is fails, if that's the way it goes, then people are going to look at the success that the Saints had, and they're going to attribute that wholly to Peyton and Breeze, deservedly. And Loomis will not get any of the credit. If Loomis lands a correct offensive coordinator, gets this thing back on track, the defense is back to being really good, and we do have a nice stretch of wins, yeah, Loomis probably will be regarded as one of the best GMs of the last, 20 years. But, I mean, what a risk to stick with Dennis Allen. Because, again, I said this last year. I've said it all this year. You are basically making a bet on a guy who has never done what you're asking him to do. You're asking Dennis Allen to be a successful NFL head coach. He has never done that. Ever. So what OC, unless Sean McVay they're reincarnating the next Sean McVay as some OC I've never heard of, like some offensive assistant in the NFL that I don't even know exists. Like, maybe if you pull Joe Brady away from Buffalo and you convince him to just be the OC in New Orleans, but man, I mean, to make this big of a bet, you're basically your entire legacy on a guy that has never done what you're asking him to do is a risky move.
Interesting place just overall for the whole entire franchise.
Hall of Fame take is interesting simply because he's also in as untouchable of a position as a GM as any that we've ever seen. So it's almost like unfair in a way to judge him against fellow GMs. Though overall, look, it's been a very successful tenure.
Yeah, wins or wins.
Nonetheless, right? Yeah. Overall, in the whole, it has. It's looking a little questionable potentially right now. So in the playoff scenarios, of course, you beat Atlanta, and if Carolina would beat Tampa, you would win the division winner. Correct?
Correct. And if you win and Carolina loses, then you need the Bears to beat Green Bay to be the wild card. So we have two routes.
Yeah.
What are the wild card scenarios going into next week?
Hold on, let me pull them up real quick so I don't screw it up. So they need two teams.
Let's see if I just nailed it off the top of my dome. Let's see here. We definitely need Green Bay to lose. I'm trying to think if there could be another team we would need to lose. I think it's just Green Bay. I think it's Green Bay. The other one would be Seattle and LA are in for sure. So it's Green Bay. Let's just say I think I'm right.
Go ahead.
They need two teams to lose, and it is where's it at? Seattle, I think, has to lose, and somebody else.
And Green Bay.
But yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of. Yeah, that's it. And Seattle has to lose to Arizona. So I mean, it's tough to kind of see it going through.
So Seattle has to lose to Arizona, and Green Bay has. For some reason, I thought Seattle locked it up.
Although Arizona did just beat the Eagles, which makes no sense at all. But
the NFL,
and Chicago is playing good too.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's possible, but I mean, there's just like a lot of stuff that has to happen. So I think they just end up, probably coming up short. And it was the same way a few years ago. I remember they closed the season out against Atlanta, and everybody's like, around the TV. And I think they needed the Rams to win against San Fran, and they laid down. and like Mickey Loomis is like cussing at the TV in the back of the press box, and it's just kind of I expect a very similar type of scene this week. I just think there's too much. I don't think they deserve to make the playoffs, man. And I hate to say that. Like everybody, gets mad at me for being negative or whatever, but like
I mean, they aren't a playoff team. Like you got to fill the playoff bracket. So teams that aren't that good do make the playoffs sometimes, and it is what it is. Like, are the Buccaneers a playoff team? No. Are the Falcons a playoff team? No. Are the Saints? No. But someone has to get in there. It is what it is at this point. There's a difference between being in the playoffs and being a playoff team. So I don't really care if we make it or not as far as like how I judge this team or how I judge the success of this season. Yeah, obviously if we make it and we go on some run, some miracle run, and we're in the NFC title game, like that's a totally different story. But if we go in there, if we make the playoffs, get rolled in the first round, and that's it, I'm not going to think any differently of how this season went versus if we don't make the playoffs.
Like I think it's just the truth. This isn't a playoff team. I don't think they deserve it. And
they haven't beaten any good teams either. Like all their wins are against the relative worst teams in the league.
The schedule's ass.
Absolutely, and it's just like, okay, fine, finish the season strong, be on a high note, don't make the playoffs, get a better draft pick, and that kind of just feels like the best scenario for the team right now. But like, they don't deserve to be a playoff team this year.
Do you? So it's kind of funny. I was talking about it last night, and this is so long to go. Like, who knows how this is all going to shake out? But I think if you are a fan of an NFL team that perhaps overachieved a little bit this year, and you're not drafting quite as high as you wanted, that you were probably pretty excited watching somebody like Michael Penix last night. I know you're constantly evaluating what the quarterbacks, like kind of what scouts.
So Penix, I've had people ask me the same thing about Penix and the Saints. Here's the deal with Penix. Is Michael Penix awesome? Yeah, Michael Penix is awesome. Yeah. But hey, you have Derek Carr under contract for $150 million. So let's say you draft Michael Penix. Are you drafting Michael Penix and expecting him to come in and immediately play over Derek Carr? Is that the plan? Because that sounds kind of crazy. So then let's say you draft Michael Penix and you're thinking, well, we'll let Carr play out, this year, and then we'll have Penix and we'll kind of evaluate, but then we'll probably more than likely cut Carr, and then we'll have Penix to take over the next year. Okay, well, Michael Penix in his college career had two, maybe even more, season-ending injuries. He's got knee issues with those injuries. He's also older. I don't think he's that much older. I think he's 23 right now. So if he sits for a whole nother year, then all of a sudden you're saying now you're wagering it on at the time will be like a 25, 26-year-old starting quarterback. Is that the situation? Like, because that seems kind of weird too. And I always talk about this, guys. I always talk about this with. You can't just think as a fan. You got to think as Dennis Allen. You got to think as Mickey Loomis. Let's say Mickey Loomis brings back Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen, I would assume, knows I got to win. A coach that's being brought back and has to win is not going to draft a project quarterback or a development situation. They're trying to win. So if you're Dennis Allen, why would you draft Michael Penix? Wouldn't you want to draft Jared Verse, Keon Coleman, Malik Neighbors, someone like that to immediately impact the team, to make your guys better, to try and win games, to try and save your job? Because also don't forget, if you're bringing Dennis Allen back, you got Derek Carr's guy. Nobody is a bigger fan of Derek Carr than Dennis Allen. Maybe David Carr, but Dennis Allen is Derek Carr's biggest fan. He drafted him. He brought him to New Orleans. He gave him $150 million. So if Dennis Allen's coming back, we're not drafting Michael Penix. You don't do those two things over the course of 2 months. I mean, the senior day is what, in a month, 2 months, something like that. So if Allen comes back, they're immediately going into drafting prospects and whatnot, getting ready for the draft. You don't have the conversation with Allen, bring him back, and then all of a sudden turn around and take Michael Penix. So there's a lot of domino effect with the Saints right now. Where, yeah, would I like us to get Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams or Drake May or Michael Penix and a new head coach and a new offensive coordinator and a new defensive coordinator? Yeah, I would. But if we get if we bring Dennis Allen back, we're not getting a new head coach, right? We're not getting a new defensive coordinator. Okay. And then we're probably not getting a franchise quarterback. We're probably sticking with the same quarterback. So it's all like these domino effects. And some of them you just got to kind of put your hands up and say, okay, that's just how it's going to be. And I just don't think Michael Penix, as much as I would like the Saints to get him, I would love the Saints. If you told me next year the head coach of the Saints is Eric Bieniemy and we draft Michael Penix and we've got Bieniemy calling the shots, calling the offense, and Michael Penix is under center and Derek Carr is at the Cat's Meow singing karaoke, I'd love that. But that's not going to happen.
You're saying about the quarterback hierarchy. Where does Penix fit in? Is he getting first round? Like, is there going to be a run on these guys? Because you're kind of like, I mean, I don't know. I know a lot of people talk about maybe like 3 in the top 10. Does that mean that Penix even gets like bumped up a bunch?
I would say guaranteed in the top 10, Williams, May, Daniels, for sure. Top 10. Probably all 3 top 5. What's going to kill Penix, I'm telling you, what's going to hurt him is his injury situation in college and the fact that he is older. And again, I don't think he's that much. I think that's crazy. I think it's insane that they're like, I mean, Joe Burrow, when he came out, I'm pretty sure Joe Burrow was like 23-ish, somewhere in there. So Penix is probably like maybe 6 months older than Burrow. Like when they get drafted, like as far as like when Burrow got drafted, his age, when Penix is going to get drafted, his age. Someone in the comments check that for me. Is that big of a deal? No, right? You wouldn't if you could draft Joe Burrow. I'm not saying Penix is Joe Burrow, but like if you had the chance to draft him, you're not saying, oh well, he's 23 and a half. I really wish he was, 22 and 8 months. Like who cares? You're talking about a couple of months here in a career, like it doesn't matter at all. So I don't think Penix's age is a big deal personally, but you will hear a lot about it in the mock drafts. I think his medical will be what holds him down. Quarterbacks are highly valued. I think Penix is good enough to where he probably will be in that, I don't know, 15 to 50. I mean, I guess 15 to wherever. I could see him going around 20. I'd be shocked if he snuck up into the top 10, but
I think he's going to be in the conversation somewhere for sure. And he seems like someone that might like rise up even more just through the process as people kind of catch up and start talking about him more. But yeah, look, I thought he looked pretty good. I mean,
yeah, he was.
If I'm the Saints, like I'm trying to get a quarterback, but I'm not the Saints, and I don't know that they're going to try to get a quarterback. I think they feel good about. Derek Carr. I think they want to build the structure around him. They look at it like there's a handful of things that need to be supported. I see you rubbing your face over there. I think that's
it's got a little bit of not definition of insanity because you're not exactly doing the same thing, but it does have a little bit of like just obstinate, like we have large sample size on these cats, but maybe it'll be
I like a metaphor. This reminds me of when you make a big pot of like chili or gumbo or something. And you went and bought all the ingredients. You went and bought a bunch of crab meat and a bunch of shrimp or whatever you're doing in your gumbo, not your chili. If you have crab meat and shrimp in your chili, you need to seek God, basically. But let's say you go buy the crab meat and you go buy the shrimp and you do all that stuff and you make the gumbo and it takes you hours to do. And it's kind of whatever. You don't get it right for some reason. The salt to pepper ratio, the okra was slimy. We all know how it can be. Something goes awry. But you got this big pot of gumbo that you spent money and time on. Now, are you going to throw that gumbo out and order Domino's and order Papa John's? You going to throw that gumbo out and go down to Curio, get you a fried shrimp platter? Because I know a lot of people, including me, who's going to eat that damn gumbo. Who's going to say, I've got this gumbo. I cooked this gumbo. I paid for this gumbo. It's here. I'm eating this whole pot of gumbo. Do I want it? No. I've had this for 5 straight days. I'm getting sick of this. I think I have mercury poison from the bad crab meat that I bought. Okay? But I'm still finishing this gumbo. And then I'll figure out what I'm eating once the gumbo's gone. That's how I feel the Saints are with Derek Carr. They have Derek Carr. They paid Derek Carr. They put the time and the hours and whatever into getting Derek Carr. He's here. He's in the fridge. He's in the pot. Now, is he, this metaphor, is he the tastiest thing in the fridge? Pause. No. Could you turn around, get on Uber Eats, get some deliciousness delivered? Yes. But are you? Probably not. We gotta, again, this metaphor, I'm not sure how this happened. We've got to finish eating Derek Carr. Pause. The biggest pause maybe in this channel's history. We got to finish that. And that is next year. Next season, we're finishing that. It's going to be over with. And then we cut it. We pull Denver. We pull a Russell Wilson. We do a little a la Sean Payton. Get rid of him. And then we can figure out what we're going to order for dinner the next season. That if you're still around, my God, if you're still watching or listening after that metaphor, ladies and gentlemen, go down in the comments below. Just put a pause. Put a pause down there for me. It can be an emoji. It can be in words, however you want to do it.
Be different, you know?
They're looking at it like if they get him better protection, better running game, like he can do what he did against the Giants or did last week. And it's just like, well, all right, but like it's probably not going to be that perfect all the time. So what happens?
How many times have I said
games?
that?
But I think if you stack the board and there's a D end, a left tackle, and a quarterback all there at say 14 where they're picking and they're all similar, you know, in grade, I don't have the confidence that they're going quarterback.
Yeah,
they're
at
not.
This point. Just
they're
based
not going
on
quarterback.
what I've heard, like
I can tell you that.
I think they believe that he can play better with a better structure, and they failed him with the structure this year. And
Yeah.
you know, I don't know, but I would be targeting the quarterback. I'd probably try to trade up for the quarterback. I might trade one of my veteran players who is maybe a little disgruntled in the system to get another first round pick to trade up with my other first round pick to get the quarterback. Like,
yeah, I would too. But I would also fire Dennis Allen. I would also fire Pete Carmichael. Like I would do a lot of other things. If I have Dennis Allen and Pistol Pete, I'm not going to go trade up to get Caleb Williams. I'm also not going to let an 11-year-old drive a Lamborghini. Like, you know, yes, I wish we would trade up and get Daniels or get Drake May or get Caleb Williams. Yeah. And I wish we had a capable offensive coordinator. Yes. And I wish I had a chocolate fountain in my living room, but I don't have any of these things. Okay? It's just a reality of it. Here's the deal. We aren't drafting a quarterback with Dennis Allen as the head coach. We're going to take the best available player. He's going to ride into the sunset with his guy, Derek Carr. If Malik Neighbors is there, if Keon Coleman is there, if Jared Verse is there, if these guys are there, they're going to take one of those guys over Michael Penix. It's just, prepare yourself, ladies and gentlemen.
That's how I would be looking at it, but I don't think they're going to go about it that way.
What and I know this question is complicated and it gets misconstrued by the national media, but when it comes to salary cap, the Saints, have constantly kind of defer.
All right, we are going to end the video there. Y'all know I don't like to talk about salary cap, and we're veering into different topics. I want to keep this kind of consistent. I don't want, we're going to make plenty of videos this week, so I don't want to cover 8 topics in this video. We're already over 30 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. I appreciate that very, very much. 2024 is going to be our year. Write it down. It is what it is. Fastest rising channel in sports media in New Orleans in 2023. Guess what? It's going to get even bigger in 2024. Guess what? I've got a lot of plans. A lot of the things we've talked about in the comments, live streams, Madden franchises. We got all kind of other channels, other avenues, podcasts. We're going to do it all. Okay, 2024 is our year. Tune in, tell a friend, tell a friend's friend. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you in the next video.